Yo, good morning everyone out there. Hope you're having a beautiful, lovely day. My name is Mr. Hecker and welcome to the show. If you don't know, now you know. This beautiful guest I have here on today, Ngarino, Beez, the brother from Maori movement. Welcome, bro. How are you? How's your morning been?
Yeah, paira watu, bro. Ngā mihi o te atu kia koutou te hunga whakarongo. Lovely to be here on this platform all the way from Aotearoa and Tāmaki Makaurau. Just residing from a small little batch in Piha at the moment, just came out of the beach. So for a crispy bit of cold water therapy going on and feeling the elements of the gods, we're doing pretty good over here.
Thank you. And once again, hey, I just want to thank you for being here today, freeing up your time. It's much appreciated. I've been looking forward to this conversation for a while now, so thank you. I like to open it up with, what are you grateful for today? 3 things.
3 things I'm grateful for. Whānau. Definitely, whānau is big for me. Totally grateful for everybody that crosses my path, but my inner circle and the ones that fill my heart, definitely give them a big shout out. The second thing, being grateful for what I do. I'm always amazed that I get to wake up every day and live out my profession, and knowing that that's my pure passion. I'm serving a purpose greater than myself, so I've got to be definitely grateful for that. And for the love of jiu-jitsu. I do jiu-jitsu every day. I try to do it every day, as it's my energy output. And without it, I get a little bit grumpy if I don't have an output. So that's my means and my ways of being able to, spend that energy that I need to offload. So those are the 3 things I'm grateful for.
Yeah, just on that, the jiu-jitsu is a very humbling sport, and it is a way to harness your energy. And as males, we can have a lot of energy, and it's sometimes not knowing where to put that can be difficult to navigate through. I want to jump straight into it and get a background story for the community out there that follow me and listen to this podcast. Your why, your reasoning behind starting Maori movement, and how you got into it. I know that you come from a background of playing football and you eventually fell into this place and you started the movement and working with the people in the community. The strong why behind it.
Well, I definitely acknowledge that I wasn't brought up through the system. And my teachers at the time, from birth right up until maybe 12, 13, I was educated or molded a certain way, where a lot of ancient and esoteric knowledge was left within my class and my era anyway. And when I left that space and went into a mainstream environment and fell in love with rugby, I transferred all of my energy into the code, into the sport, and made a profession out of it and played professional rugby for about 8 years. But I always had this burning desire, because in rugby they always say, "Oh, give back to the game, give back." And I was like, man, we've got enough All Blacks giving back to the game. Who's giving back to our people? And for me, it was, I saw so many gaps and so many holes. So when I went back to study and go through my masters through Te Whare Wānanga Wanuiarangi, I saw a lot of holes. I saw so many holes that the system over here was not providing for our people. And so I specialized in the health and well-being area, and really looked at the stats of where our people were currently sitting in this day and age, and knowing that colonization had a huge effect on our people, and the intergenerational trauma that still affects us even to this day was something that I was willing to drop by 2% every year that I commit to this program or this movement that I've created. So for us, males and females in our prison societies at the moment, 52%, both males and females are the population stats in our prisons for Maori. Suicide is massive over here. I think Maori males are the highest in Aotearoa, New Zealand, and we're around about the 2nd or the 3rd highest stat in the world, and that's ratio per capita. And for me, it's that those were alarming stats. What comes with that as well is the addictions that you get from, the likes of all of the top heavy drugs, and the environments that our people are growing up in, or shall I name the that environment being poverty. And so there's a richness to our culture, and it was always hidden, or it was never given any mana whatsoever. It pretty much put us in a position where we were always on the back foot. So my reason for creating this kaupapa was to merely put us on an even playing field within this current society, so that we can achieve to higher aspirations than what we're at the moment.
Yeah, I love that scenario that you played out there. The people are just being in a poor environment and they don't know it, and you're shining the light on that as well. And it's the communities that the stronger we make these communities, the better people we're going to breed out of these communities. And I follow your work, and I'll speak into this as well because I've had the chance to go to New Zealand and do some of our work as well there. And yeah, you're right. The alarming rate of men that are taking their lives in New Zealand, the Maori people, is alarming, and that's one of the biggest things we went there. And it's a real big, even for myself working in Australia and New Zealand, I notice it. It's not even like a little bit. It's the amount of hurt and the trauma and the pain that a lot of the men are holding. It's a massive difference. It's not like a small difference compared to Australia and New Zealand. The men in New Zealand seem to be holding things a lot heavier. That generational trauma has been held and it's been carried through the years and the generations, and it's still there. And there hasn't been a movement like yours or like anyone else's to be able to unlock all that potential, release the trauma, and help the community and the people that serves them as well. There's always, I feel like in the past, there's been these movements or things that have come up to help the people, but there's always a hidden agenda. As where I know your movement is pure, it's direct, and you have the mission, you have the why, and you are there for the people. And I just have to give you praise for the work that you do, bro, because I see you out there, I see you shaking it, moving it, and getting it done on my, it inspires me as well. You've actually encouraged me in many other areas to step up my game as well. So I just want to acknowledge you on that, bro, publicly, and say thank you very much for the work that you do for the community.
Tēnā koe, brother. Tēnā koe. It works both ways. I mean, I know with men's medicine and, where you guys are currently at, and I know there was a little bit of a mountain and then a collapse within how it all panned out, and it was always meant to happen that way. And, I've gone through the same trials and tribulations, bro. I'm climbing a mountain, all of a sudden I go down a slip, and I'm like, cool, I must meant for me to be in this space so I can sort of nurture what I need to, or take what I need to, and learn from my own experiences to take and provide that for the people as well. So, it's not easy doing the job that we do, bro. And I know you know that. I know you know that feeling. But I do feel like when we are doing this work, we inspire each other. Yeah. Like when I see you guys go for a walk, I'm like, man, they're on. The brothers are on. The light's gone, and they've created that sacred space for people to be able to release. And vice versa. So I know what that feels like. I know what it means when you guys are going in, when you're dropping in. I know what that means. So to me, it sort of gets my heart racing too. And to know that the brother Wah is doing his thing over there as well with the men, and there are these sacred sons, and there are many other different people that are doing work out there. But I think you're right. As long as you were true within yourself for the reasons you were doing it, and you were walking your talk, and you were following and backing that up, bro, and providing authenticity, people trust that. People understand what's it, and they can smell it from a mile away. They know whether you're on or whether you're off. Yeah,
and just to speak on it, same back to you, bro. I know when I see you doing your events, I'm like, because I know what it's like to be in that space and that environment. I'm like, today the magic is happening. Today that's a special day where people get to heal, get to grow, and get to change. That's what happens there, and when you're on the other side, it's a special feeling. And I don't know about you, you will go home, and I go home, and I'm just like, sit in my chair, I'm like, we did that today, there's that sense of fulfillment, and like you said, that clarity of message and heart from here, and the people pick up on that and see it, and it's attractive because they need it, they know it, they know that's what they need, they don't need all the lies and the things that have been told to them the whole year, all of their life, and they come to a circle like mine or yours or like Whaatini's, and it's pure, it's clear. The message is there. We're here to heal and help. And that's what I love about these communities as well. And there's many more popping up at the moment. And I'm a big supporter of all. So, and like yourself, bro, I like the way you're out there leading the community as well. And
No, good.
I gotta keep giving you praise, bro, because like you said, I always watch your content and your words as well. Your words, like the way you speak, the way you talk, it's really strong and powerful. And even now that I'm learning today, it's getting a little. I can understand that side as well. So yeah, bro,
Yeah.
it's just it's all syncing up. It's syncing, leveling up, and yeah, I know we've all had our falls and we've had to climb the mountain and then fall down and get back up again. But that's what we're here for, and it shows that shows true character of the work because anyone can climb the mountain up there and get to a point and then fall down. Not everyone can get back up and go again.
That's right, bro. And I love those little falls too, bro. I mean, like for me, it's those are good learning lessons. You know, I take them as learning curves. You know, never ever do I feel like, oh man, it's going to put me in a state of vulnerability and isolation. I mean, you know, vulnerability is a new strong at the moment anyway. So I encourage it. You know, if I say, man, cool, I'm not sort of feeling this or something's happened or I've got a curveball that's being thrown at me, I almost welcome it because I understand that, you know, that's part of my journey. That's part of my journey. And when you're authentically aligned with yourself and you're bringing your own intuition into it and that true power and that sense of mutuality, you respect that space. You respect it so much more. It's when sometimes the thought processes can take over the essence of who you are. That's when things sort of go all over the show and you start attracting these other things that you don't really need to be attracting into your life. So keeping things really, really simple and executing excellence inside simplicity is what I'm all about, bro.
Bro, that is exactly what I say. I always say keep it stupid, simple, and execute it. Otherwise, you're going to get confused. That's where males, we like to bring so many things in. It's like, oh, no, nothing happens, and nothing works, bro. So I want to talk about adversity as well because obviously you've had to go through that throughout your life. What are some of the lowest lows that you've had to face in your life and the toughest lessons that you've learnt coming out of that adversity? Because I know you hit there was a stage there when you come out of rugby and you may have been trying to find yourself, I feel like, listening to a previous podcast. And yeah, what happened in those times?
Bro, that was quite a deep traumatic experience. I mean, like, as every rugby player over here in Aotearoa, bro, you aspire to be an All Black. And any person that would put on a professional jumper would be lying if they didn't say that was their end goal. So obviously 2005 I was playing for Taranaki at the time and I was having a massive season, like a bit of a rude awakening that I was sort of having out of body experiences in myself for that time, and I could feel something was about to shift, like a massive shift was about to happen. So you have All Black selectors watching you. They're comparing you against other players. You're getting messages saying, you know, this is going to be it. This is going to be your year. There's an All Black UK tour at the end of the year. So obviously I was on my way to opening up those channels for myself. And lo and behold, I had my newborn was born then. And I had 2 weeks off of rugby. And that was the 2 weeks that sort of shot a hole in my career. And at the same time, I was getting sort of gearing up against one of the brothers, Corey Jane, and he had a blinder in those 2 weeks, like absolute blinder. He got selected for that All Black tour, and I was at home with my baby going, oh man, I had to sort of just have a moment with myself saying, was that the window of all opportunities? But I wouldn't change it for the world because the blessing that I received with a newborn in my hands was something that, you know, I really value as a father and as a person. So obviously chasing the dream and moving provinces, etc. I moved back to Wellington and then moved up to the Blues territory in Auckland, and just didn't quite hit the same mark. So the end of my career, I ended up having a career-ending injury. And in that portal, there was this dark hole that I was just suffering, and I closed the doors of my apartment. Didn't want to see any of the boys. I didn't even want to watch a game of rugby. I was smoking weed every day just to numb the pain. And just some of these things that I was really suffering from in terms of thinking small, feeling small, being small, playing small. That was just all part of the death spiral that I was in. And it was just one of the bros just came over one day and he knocked and he forced my door open. His name's Jack Tarrant. And he just come back from Japan and he heard that I was in no man's land. So for me, it was a close brother who came in and just pulled me out. I was still in a moon boot for like 6 months. And he'd just get me out. And basically it was just a day by day progressive thing. But I wanted to stay in that portal of darkness because it was comfortable for me. It was safer for me to be in the portal of darkness, not face the shame and bury that, those memories were all surfacing at the same time. And I had to deal with that. So the bro pulled me out of the darkness and put me into the world of light. So I had to face them. I had to face the boys. The All Black boys are training up the road. He took me there, and all the boys just came and gave me a big hug. And I was just looking at them, thinking to myself, "Oh, that's all my own shit. This is me that I have to face. This is no one that has any perception of who I am and what I'm about." So yeah, it was a little bit of a navigating storm that I was getting myself through. And once I'd overcome that, I then turned back to the seeds that were sown in me from birth. And I decided to put my energy back in there. And that's what built my my desire to want to come forth and build this program called Maori Movement. And I worked it for 10 years straight. 10 years it took me to build it. And I've only put it out on the out into the open public for the last 3 years. Now we're in year 3 that I've had it open. But it took me 10 years to mastermind the whole entire thing, to make sure that I trialed it on the right things and the right people. And now I feel really comfortable with where it's at, and it's just only climbing now. So I'm getting busier and busier, bro, and I'm living my purpose, which is something that I'm really proud of.
Yeah, but I see it in you as well. The way, like I said, the way you talk and the way you present yourself, and I know this is a man that's went deep in the work. That's one of the first things that attracted me to looking at what you were doing. I was like, this is a man that went deep. He didn't just wake up one morning and go, oh, yes, sweet, I'll do the thing and have a look at it. He went deep in the work and studied and went and got the knowledge and experience, and it shows in everything that you do. So kudos to you there. And those dark times, bro, those are the ones that make us. Those are the ones that shows here now. Looking back at that, obviously you wouldn't regret any of that.
Nah, absolutely not. It opened up the doors, bro. It opened up the doors to, the stuff that we really are facing and dealing with on an everyday level here in Aotearoa. So, I mean, like, if you go back to sort of colonization, then you go back to the tribal warfares. If you even go back before then, which is the Great Navigation or the Great Migration that our people travelled from Hawaii to Aotearoa. You can see it all in the whakapapa. Whakapapa being the genealogy of where it's all come from. And you can see these patterns start to unfold. And once you can recognize that, things start to make a little bit more sense. And you can handle things a little bit more responsive. You can be more responsive instead of reactive in terms of the way that you deal with your mannerisms here. So when one layer was peeled off, I just keep unpacking the layers, bro. And I knew for me to do this work, you got to do the work on yourself first. You can't just go out there and start promoting yourself as a higher wisdom, blah, 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 because you've been inspired by someone else's teachings. You got to go and then you got to do the mahi yourself. Don't ride off the back of everybody else's greatness. If you can look within here and deal with your own stuff, your truth and the trust of the people will be one if you just can present yourself on an authentic level.
Everything starts here. It all starts with you. You wanna dive into the work, dive into your own first. And I liked, as you said, that's kind of like as what I refer to it as unpacking. Go back and you get to unpack all the shit from your past, the traumas, the good, the bads, and they are. And this is a thing that people talk about self-love all the time to me, and they're like, oh, I love this thing about me. I love all the good things, but I'm like, what about the dark things? Like, what about the things that you may not, like I said, the true expression for me is for self-love is loving all, the goods and the bads, is where people want to see the highlight reel. They want to see, they love all the good things in their life. I'm like, to truly love yourself, you must love all, not just those things. And on the back of that question, you may not have been asked this before, but what is your perception of love? What does love mean to you and why?
Man, I was so grateful to be brought up around wahine. So my mother love, or the female love that was installed in me right from birth, all come from my mother's line, my aunties, my female cousins, there was this nurturing type of love that they understood, and to really care for somebody in a nurturing way, that it's the essence of love. Like it's really hard to explain love from aroha. They mean two different things. I mean, people say, "Oh yeah, what is love in the Maori worldview?" And we say aroha, but when you break down the word aroha, I'm a decoder of our language, and because you can't transliterate Maori language into English, it just doesn't mean the same thing. And aroha means to be in the forefront or be present with somebody, with their heart. That heart is sharing that breath of life, that you are being present and absolutely focused on that moment and that time, and really giving your energy and the essence of your energy to that person when you are feeling connected on that unseen level. And there are all types of emotions that are being connected in that space and time. So that's a real small part to be able to express the word love or what it means, but really being present with somebody and having the understanding that you can look into their eyes and looking into the depths of their soul and finding a deeper connection for you to be able to open up the higher purpose and reasons of why you connected in the first place. And that can be scaled on different visions, from your child to your lover to your family to your siblings. They all have different scales and different connections. So yeah,
I love that analogy and breakdown as well. I want to know, like, being out there in the community working with the men, what are some of the biggest things that you feel like men are facing and dealing with now in Aotearoa? Like, what are some of the issues that are coming up? What are some of the struggles men are coming to you struggling, and what's some things that are coming up?
Bro, we're dealing with a lot of the fatherless generation over here. The fatherless generation, we call it te reanga kore papa. Te reanga kore papa, that terminology was written by a tohunga of mine, and Dr. Ngāpō Wehi. And when we looked into the research of why so many of our men are getting lost out there, is because they never had examples. They had never had great examples of what it means to be a good man, or to be a good father, or to be a good person. So that was very apparent in some of our wānanga workshops. Then you have the older generation, who was my father-in-law's generation, who did not know love. They didn't know what love looked like. They had no understanding of what love was. So they had to try and find it themselves. And through violence was the only way that they could express love, because it meant that they were connecting on a vigorous level. And that stems from the generation above that, who'd come out of World War I, World War II, and took to alcohol. And so, the filter effect of that just starts streaming down. So you have all of these passages that are starting to open up with the lack of understanding and the lack of love and the lack of role models that were around at that time. So the absolute first and foremost pure, or the essence of how we open up that space for the brotherhood, is that we just let them get up and understand and talk truthfully, so that we have their undivided attention in that sacred space, and then we bury it with love. We bury it with love so that becomes the absolute magic of the wānanga. And if that wānanga is being purified, it jumps from one brother to another, and you would have seen it in your guys' work, and it jumps all over, and then all of a sudden, you don't even understand who they were before they walked into the circle. They're completely transformed. And so we have the same connection, bro, but we kill everything with love.
Yeah, that's it, hey. And love always wins. I had this real struggle with myself a long time ago. Someone told me, they're like, love always wins. And I was like, does it? And it took me about 2 months to sit with that. This was a while ago, and I played it through many different scenarios and analogies, and I started looking at, like, my community, like what I was doing, and looking at external projects and things that were going on in the world. I was like, it actually wins every time. It's a strange way, and love is a powerful thing. And I always ask myself, when I'm faced with a situation, what would love do? What would love do? And you can't go wrong. You can't go wrong.
No, you can't.
It'll lead you. It'll lead you. It'll lead you forwards as well. It'll pull you forwards. It'll put you in uncomfortable positions as well, because at the end of the day, love always wins. And most men, most women, they're always seeking love. And like you said, going into those circles, it is actually such a special moment and like yourself, you would have seen it. Like they come in, and you're like, and you know, like when you see someone coming into a space like that or an environment, you're like heavy. You can see it. It's all written there. You're like, oh, and I love it. I'm like, I know that today when you leave, the change, and that excites me about the work, is because you get to see them transform throughout the day. It's a special feeling, bro. And what about I want to know, like your workshops now and doing what you do, not workshops, but doing your movement. What do you hold in the future? What do you foresee? Like where would you like to see Maori movement? What's the pattern here?
Well, basically, bro, we've had thousands of people over the last 3 years coming to our workspace, and when they do come into this ancient realm that we create, the hope inside of me is that that they can take that energy and pass it on to others. And so that becomes, like if I can influence 30 to 50 people that come into my space and they go out and they affect 10 other people that vibrates that same energy or that emanates that same energy, we're just shifting the paradigm of the world one person at a time. And for me, it's not about, this is a marathon, it's not a sprint to get to anywhere real quickly. I understand that, I'm still going through my own stuff. It's an ongoing process and journey. So when I see somebody has transformed, like it's one of the statements that I make when I let everybody speak and I come back to myself and I initiate the opening of the wānanga space. My first words that come out is, I'm about to change your life. And I don't say that lightly. I don't say it lightly at all. That is my objective, and I know that's what I'm putting out there. And then you have the analytical ones that are coming just to analyze your work and sort of just question everything and be all that. They're my favorite, bro, because they end up coming out your biggest advocates.
They do. Hey, it's funny.
They do, bro.
People are like, oh, I just come here for him and him. I'm like, no, you didn't. Oh, no, you didn't. I'm like, and at the end of the day, they're just like mind blowing. I'm like, yeah, see, I told you.
yeah. That's exactly right, bro. But the hope at the end of the day, bro, is to drop these stats. These poor health statistics that we have here in Aotearoa. No doubt when I came to Australia, the same were there. They were the same. It just shifted from here to over there. But the stats were still the same. So for me, if I can bring down those stats and allow myself to be able to know that from the ancestors that I'm doing the work on myself and channeling that and bringing that to the people, I know that I'm serving that light and I'm serving that in a respectful manner. But the objective is to bring those stats down and bring people back into their true self.
That was for me as well. When the last time I went to Napier and we had a walk in Napier, it was so evident. I think that time of the year, last September there was like 860 men that had died in that year via suicide. I was like, that's too many. There's no way. As a man here, and I've lost, men before, and that's how I got into this work. I was like, enough's enough. Enough is enough. I ain't gonna stand here do nothing. It's time to, someone's got to go. Someone's got to go first. And like you said, that energy is passed on, and it only takes one. One goes, okay, another one, and it builds and it grows. And like you said, it's not a sprint. This is a marathon. And I always say, like, good things happened, like men have done good things, but all great things happened in groups, and all great things happened in this world in groups, and bringing that community together and making that community strong is where we make the best change. And you would have realized it and sensed it as well. Bringing people in together, that's when the massive change happens, and that's where it grows and grows and grows, and you get that effect. And that's it's a special place to be in and hold that space and then be able to see it nurture out to all these public places as well. It's good work, bro. Hey, it's
very rewarding, bro. Very rewarding. And and what was alarming to me too, bro, is that there were so many therapeutic rehabilitation centers here in Aotearoa, but none of them were doing anything that was impacting the community. I think we might have started at the same time. I think men's medicine and Maori movement sort of launched roughly about the same time. And so when I saw you guys, I was like, oh, the bros would be vibing on their stuff. And then I was sort of having a watch about what you guys are doing. And I said, oh, they're taking them back into the environment and putting them back into clean energy.
Yeah.
And to me, that was, same thing that I was on in terms of the direction that I wanted to take Maori movement anyway. But just looking at how the excitement that it was causing over this side of the country when you guys launched over in Aussie, and how you guys came over here and opened up everything for the boys, or gave a space for men to come in. And now I'm getting guys from men's medicine inside of Maori movement, who are all connecting, going, oh shit, you do everything, but it's just in the Maori way. Yeah. And I was like, yeah, pretty much, bro. It's the same thing, and you can cross between both depending on whatever you're resonating with, but knowing that we're still saying the same thing. We're going the same direction and opening up that platform for people. So it's been mind blowing, bro. And the hope and the dreams and the visions is that one day we can all get into a collaborative field and sort of just create this convention of masterminds that we want to bring men and women into this space and just allow them to be able to breathe in that epic energy that we create. So I've had a chat to the bro Lino and just said to him, bro, something's on the cards. I don't know when, I don't know how, I don't know where, but something's on the cards.
It is on the cards. Actually, I wasn't going to say this in the podcast, but I was like, I had a thing about a month ago, 2 months ago. I had a ceremony, a mushroom ceremony. Sometimes I dive into psychedelics, and I'd never even spoke to you before then, but I reached out after. This is a couple of months ago, and what come up in my journey that I went on was to come see you. No, and it was very strong. And I was like, oh, I don't know what that's like to say it on the podcast. I was going to tell you in person, but I was like, no, it happens here. And I got a very strong sense that I was like to come see you. And all the message was, I guess, for those who have tried plant medicine, was to come. When I meet you, make sure I meet you here. That was it. That was all I got told. It was like when I meet you here, and that was it. And then I was like, okay, cool. So you just brought it up then. I was like, So I'm excited to get back over there. New Zealand for me. I wasn't fortunate enough to spend any time there as a kid, but I know it's a special place, and it's you can feel it. You go there. It's for me, it's a warming place. I feel nice there, and it's and I love it. So I'm looking forward to going back over there, and I hope they open the borders soon as well, so we can get back over there and get in touch and deliver this work to the people in the community. I got a question. So you're sitting there, let's say 50 years from now, in your chair on the beach where you are now, enjoying life, and you look back at everything that has happened. What do you feel like are some of the things that you want to be like, okay, I've done that. I got to tick that off the list in my lifetime. I achieved that.
Bro, it's a powerful question. Well, the lesson that you get taught when you go into your marae is that leave your marae cleaner than the way that you found it. And the impacts of what I'm doing in this space and this time in a human way, because I'm very much aware that we're all souls. We're having a human experience, that I left this space cleaner than when I found it. And once I do pass on and I do go over to the other side and I do reunite with my ancestors in the hope that I can go there and say I did my best to heal our people from the grievances that we've suffered over the past. If I can stand in front of them in that light and that might, then I know that I can cross over peacefully. And so, for me, that's quite a deep thing to share, because on a scale and a level where I've felt everything that our people have felt, I can see where it comes from. I've felt every pain. I've felt every traumatic experience. I've felt the depths and the absolute spirals that they've suffered over time. I've seen in my visions back in the past what I'm healing, what I'm grieving for. So when the motion of all of these treaty settlements were being signed off by the government to the local iwis, and we were gaining something like 2 to 3% of our lands back, millions of dollars were being exchanged at the time, none of that was healing our people. None of that was actually getting down to the grassroots of making significant changes to open our people up to what we're meant to be doing. I mean, I always say that, we're the greatest inventors in the world. How do Polynesian Maoris create voyages from master canoes being made out of wood and basically sailing from Hawaii all the way to Aotearoa in the toughest seas? So I always say we're the greatest creators, but we're also the greatest destroyers of our own destiny. And it's just about paving that way for our people to be able to navigate themselves, knowing that they come from a rich history of the greatest navigators in the world. And so for me, it's just making sure that when I do sit up on my little retirement village as I am at the moment, and looking back at the good mahi that has been paved behind me, that it's been influenced and shared by a higher source.
I'm going to make sure that happens, brother, because that's very much aligned with what I like. For me as well, I don't want to die knowing that the youth never got to experience the best of their life. And if I can't, heal those generational traumas, or they don't have to go through the same things that we had to go through, our community, our people, that's my job done. My job is to make sure that the youth get to live their best life, and I feel like if that doesn't happen, I feel like I failed as a man in the community, and that's why I hold on myself as well, and that always pushes me for drive as well, to be able to get out there, because sometimes it gets tough, as you know, to get up there and do your thing and do your piece, and there's things that adversity come in your face, and it's like no, the reason why it's long, it's strong, and we're here to change. And as myself, I feel like there's a very big shift going on at the moment, as far as people being open to healing, being able to come to these spaces that you provide, and are open to it. As where I do remember when we first went to New Zealand, it was very standoffish. It was very they were weird. They were very, very weird about it. The next time, grabbing me, hugging you, it's like, it's almost like, grab you, hurry up, let's go. We know what's coming, and now, so the doors have been opened, the floodgates have been opened, and it's beautiful to see, brother. It's beautiful to see. What's your experience in the time that things have been starting to transition now? What's your experience around that?
Oh, the transitional phase, especially during COVID, was powerful, bro. It was powerful. I got busier, and I think a lot of people were taking off work, but it was actually the time where you could do online work, and that shift happened where you could reach more people because they weren't so busy in their minds. They could sink it to their hearts and start getting shit for once. And I capitalized on it. I thought this was a good time to be able to get that message out there to people to say, hey, take this time for self. Take it with both hands, because when you start to let the world breathe a little bit, you could see in the atmosphere that everything was changing. Man, our birds were coming right up to us, our fishes were jumping out of the water, so you knew the activity in the universe was shifting big time because we let it breathe. Humans, as humans, we're slowly killing off this world, and just to have that breathing space just allowed the essence of what that spiritual flow was moving back and forth in the shades of night and the rays of light to be able to take its true place. So that shift was very apparent. And now that we're post-COVID and people are getting back into normality, you can see that they're taking their wellness a little bit more seriously than pre-COVID, where it was just taking it for granted. But now you can see the seriousness of the shift that's been happening. So I'm trying to get out there as again, get into your whys, get into your purpose, get into the who are you, get into that, connect back in, plug back into your ancestral bloodline, and that will be able to open up the portals. Because if you really think about it, is here in this day and age, it's like when you go 7 miles deep, you also go 7 generations deep. What are your great grandchildren going to be saying about you? When they speak your name, said, I'm a descendant of Ngarino te Whaati, what are they going to be saying about their karawa? What are they going to be saying about their ancestor? So it gives me warmth to know that, all the trials and tribulations you go through life, that, you really want to sort of just peel it back to the core and the essence of who you are, so you can provide that mark, that trademark for the next 7 generations coming through.
Yeah, I love that. And I always say, uh, own who you are, but know who you are. You can't own something if you don't know it.
Beautiful,
And that's a
beautiful.
lot of people are like, yeah, I own who I am. You know, I am this person, but they don't know who they are. I'm like, hold on, just
Mm,
like you said, peel it back. You need to know who you are before you own who
mm,
you are, and that's a really important
mm,
thing. That's why I feel people get lost because they're out there, they're doing, but they actually don't really know who they are, and it's a common thing in males as well, where they're lost. Hey, that's a real evident sign for myself being out there in the community and we've seen it is don't no direction, and like you said, the generation of no fathers is that's evident. That's probably what happened. Is a lot of kids, a lot of young men never had any direction. They had never had a father figure in their life to be able to direct them, and it's showing up everywhere in our community. I want to
yeah,
uh
you're right.
yeah, I want to know like because there's the biggest thing I found in New Zealand was the alcohol. The alcohol. The alcohol was the biggest thing I felt. Like everyone always leans on the alcohol over there. As we're New Australia, yes, it's big, but there's the drugs and everything like that. But alcohol seems to be like the one of the biggest things in New Zealand. What can you speak into that in your experience?
Yeah, bro, alcohol. I mean, like, I'm not a big drinker, so I don't really sort of relate. But when I have tootled up and got trashed, I wake up and I have no recollection of what the hell I done. And to me, that was enough to be able to knock it on the head. But a common use of alcohol is to suppress feelings
Mm.
over here. You drink alcohol to press it down so that it parks for a time where you don't have to deal with it. So that's another way of using it. And, you sort of have all of these different stages of how alcohol affects our people. And it's very common inside the Maori community anyway, is that, the first stage is you, you become you become a little bit of a peacock, and that cockiness sort of just plays out. The next part of it is that the cheeky monkey starts coming out. So you start getting a little bit lippy and a little bit toesy and confident. And then the next one, the lion comes out and you want to start fighting everybody and all that aggression starts surfacing out. And then the last one being the puaka, being the pig, is that you're there spewing on yourself and making yourself look like an absolute blog. So those are the four stages of alcohol that was written by one of our karaua. And in that space, you sort of start to see those stages unfold and you wonder, man, there's some deeper issues going through that, the trauma of that person, if they're hitting it hard and fast or doing it every day religiously, drinking alcohol, and then it's the rest of the effects come from that.
Yeah, I want to just on that. I want to speak about emotions as well because I know that you'll be very aware of your emotions, and myself and a lot of people that'll be watching and listen to this would be like, wouldn't expect two men to sit here and have a conversation about crying. Like, and I have this conversation with people all the time, and they're like, oh, I'm like, I cried not long ago. Emotion is here, it's present, it's now. I can't ignore it. It's like this is
Mm,
where the suppression comes in. A lot of men, and that's why I speak about the alcohol because they usually use that as the out, and they get drunk and they get thinking they might be at home. Then the emotions come out and they allow everything to free flow. Then, other than when I'm like try to teach them, and I'm like, you don't need that. That's not making it better. You're only building it up to release it, and then you're just going in a vicious cycle. So, maybe just elaborate on that and what emotions and why it's important for a man to feel his emotions, and it's okay.
yeah. I think a big thing over here is harden
Mm.
up, boy.
Yeah.
We've got that real stereotypical sort of way about our men over here, and this thing of sharing was very uncommon. There are certain spaces you can share and certain spaces that you can't. But that the spaces that you can were very 1.0000% of a space that you could potentially share for a little bit before getting a hiding for crying or sharing that emotion. So we're dealing with all of that as well. We're trying to unpack all of that to say it's okay to create a safe space for you to be able to cry. So in my wānanga space, the very last sacred circle that we provide is the space for people to be able to get up and express themselves. The last Tāne Matua men's wānanga that I held here in the Waitākere in Tāmaki, Makaurau, Auckland, um, these circles roughly go for about 2 hours. The very first men's wānanga that I took went for 6.5 hours
Sick.
because you couldn't stop the chain effect. When one brother got up and he started pouring his truth out and he was crying in emotion, it jumped onto the next one, jumped onto the next one, jumped onto the next one. So these talks were going for about 45 minutes to an hour per person. We had 40 people in the room. I'm like, okay, boys, let's stand up, let's have a breath, let's breathe it in. And just remember, there's 45 of us. We just want to make sure that we get the golden nuggets along. So just move our chain along. Bro, it went slower. It went slower. They turned around and they were like, stuff you, Beez, you ain't going to stand here and tell us how to really hold back our tears. And I was like, true right. Who the hell am I to tell you to do that? So, that was a learning curve for me, my bro.
I laugh about that because we learnt that lesson as well. It's once you open it up, we had to split them into smaller circles. So when we're on a walk, so we split them up into like 10s and 12s because the same thing happened. Like you open it up and like one goes long, and I notice it in our walks and in our events, like one goes, and if the first one is a short one, the rest are pretty short. But if the first one is a long one, I'm like, I'm looking around the circle. I'm like, we're not even halfway yet. You're standing there. It's cold. I'm like, it's gotta go. I'm like, it's cold, brother. But yeah, it's a special place to be in as well, and it's it's a beautiful time and space that we're living in here now. Any advice to someone out there, the man that wants to come and experience your work? How do we find you, and where can we get hold of you?
Yeah, during this time at the moment, I'm still here in Aotearoa. We're doing a lot of work in Auckland and Tāmaki. Only we've got our retreat places pretty much set, and all of the dimensions of the gods have aligned to the spaces that create that safe portal for us to be able to enter into. So Tāmaki is a really good space for us. We're going to be doing a lot of work in Napier. As you guys know, the stats down there are pretty bad. So we've been called down to Napier to carry on some good work down there. We're also going to be in Te Papaioia, which is Palmerston North, and then going down to the Head in Wellington as well. So just keep a lookout on our Maori Movement page, all our social media pages for the up and coming dates. There are 3 types of houses that we align with. The first one is Te Whare Aio, which is open for men and women. The second one is Tāne Matua, which is just for men. And the third one is Hinerei, just for women. But ultimately, we always want to come back to the space of neutrality, which is Te Whare Aio, just so that we can feel that commonality between the men and women and help to balance with those particular types of energy. So look at on our platforms. We've got a YouTube series that is about to drop called Orokoroa, which is the Maori States of Meditation. That's going to be dropping middle of August. So that's a subscription base as well. You can jump on our YouTube channel and get into some Maori visualization work as well and experience something different from a cultural perspective. Atu tērā, brother.
I'll be putting all the links down below as well for the people wondering. I'll put everything there so they can find you as well. I got the last 2 questions. You have one wish in this world, and you could change anything. What would it be?
One wish that would change something. Yeah, it's a little bit of a tough question, my bro.
Yeah, you can't get 2 either. Everyone wants 2.
Yeah. And for me, it's I've never been a wishful type of guy, because everything that pans out is meant to be in my books. But when I look back, if I wouldn't change anything in the course of direction, otherwise it wouldn't have led me to where I am at the moment. But the wish maybe is to put this treaty document in its right order, in its right form. So there are 2 forms of this written document called Te Tiriti o Waitangi and the Treaty of Waitangi that say 2 different things. And I believe that if we met in a common space and got some agreements around the fusion of Pākehā and Maori culture, we'd be living in a more prosperous avenue. But it's getting the understanding around the heads of the majority of Pākehā who don't want to honour the treaty. And so for me, it's about putting that in space, because that will change the whole dynamics of everything that's going on here. It will change it dramatically. And because of that document, I'm now going through and tidying it up. I'm actually doing the work of what was done back then, and I'm cleaning that stuff up at the moment.
Yeah.
So it would make my job a lot easier if everyone just understood what the hell was going on.
Definitely. The last question is words of wisdom. What's some words of wisdom for someone out there listening?
You have 2 eyes, 2 ears, and 1 mouth. Open, shut this, learn your lessons, go out there and deliver the goods. Always feel from your ngako, follow your intuition, stay aligned, stay present, be you.
Look at that go. Thank you very much, brother. That's on the money. Simple, easy, and you can't mess that up. Thank you very much. Appreciate your time, brother, and look forward to seeing what happens in the future. As always, much love and respect. Thank you.
Awesome. Mean brother.
Thank you, brother.